Well, good morning, everybody. Thanks for coming and for always keeping our customers informed. As you all know, 2014 was a year of transformation. In November and December of 2013, the ownership and operation of Harrisburg's entire water and sewer system was transferred to Capital Region Water. Since that time, we've made major strides in improving the operation of our system from raindrop to river. Since before the transition, beginning back in 2011, Capital Region Water has been working with and in negotiations with the U.S. Department of Justice, the Environmental Protection Agency, and the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection. We've been doing this to address violations of the Harrisburg sewer systems. After over a year and a half of detailed negotiations, Capital Region Water's Board of Directors will be voting to approve a partial consent decree that outlines actions necessary to come into compliance with the Federal Clean Water Act and PA Clean Streams Law, and to improve the health of our local waterways. Understanding that our customers have experienced rising costs in many aspects of their lives, and knowing that we have an aging system that needs a lot of work to be done, our staff has worked tirelessly to reduce the financial impact of this agreement on our customers. I'm pleased to report this morning that there will not be any financial penalties at this time. If we take the necessary actions under the timeline set forth in the agreement, every dollar spent will go towards our community and improving our system. So why is this partial consent decree needed? Well, put simply, the violations that led to this partial consent decree date back many years and include delay of updates to the wastewater treatment plant and inadequate maintenance of the combined sewer system. What's a combined sewer system, you may ask? Well, we do have a visual aid over here, and it's available on our website as well, but a combined sewer system collects both rainwater and wastewater from streets and homes into the same piping system. Normally, all of this water is treated at the wastewater treatment plant, but during heavy rainfall events, this system is designed and permitted to overflow into one or more of almost 60 different locations into Paxton Creek and the Susquehanna River. This is instead of backing up into your home or business. Combined sewer systems aren't unique to Harrisburg. In fact, they were state-of-the-art public health improvements in the early 1900s, and Harrisburg is one of over 770 cities with combined sewer systems in the United States. But now it's time to update, and this partial consent decree outlines the steps we need to take. Most importantly, we need to reduce how much of our combined sewer system overflows into Paxton Creek and the Susquehanna River. To do this, Capital Region Water has started by collecting data on the flow and condition of our system so that we can identify the most effective and economically feasible alternatives to minimize these overflow events. These planning efforts, modeling, and data collection efforts began in 2013. Coming up in 2015, thanks to a grant from the Department of Conservation and Natural Resources, we will also be developing a green infrastructure plan to identify ways that we can use trees, vegetated roofs, and other technologies to help reduce combined sewer overflows while also improving the health and vitality of our communities. This will be a community-led initiative, and we'll be having community-led green infrastructure group. For more information on this, or for those who are interested, keep your eyes on our website and for solicitations of interest. We've also agreed to several early action projects under this partial consent decree. These include the completion of upgrades to our wastewater treatment plant by March of 2016. We're on track for that. We've also committed to repairing parts of the Front Street Interceptor that we found to be defective and deficient. We are also investigating all combined sewer overflow outfalls and making repairs to those that are having river water come into the system and or having wastewater go out of the system. Capital Region Water is not only committed to improving our system and protecting our waterways, we're also committed to transparency. The partial consent decree will be posted on our website immediately following this announcement, and everyone is welcome to attend our board meeting on December 17th at 6 p.m. to a comment or hear the discussion about the consent decree. It's unfortunate that so many violations occurred, but Capital Region Water is proud to continue righting the ship and to be a party to an agreement that will allow Harrisburg's sewer system to come into compliance and improve the health of our local waterways. Capital Region Water is proud that we've developed a strong partnership with the Environmental Protection Agency and the Department of Environmental Protection. This partnership will allow us to ensure that the improvements that need to be made are made in a cost-effective manner for all of our residents. This endeavor will represent a significant investment in the future of the Harrisburg community, but we're committed to do it in a way that all of our customers can afford. So, thank you. And now I will be happy to take questions.
You mentioned no financial penalties. Do you have the fear, though, that as you make these improvements and upgrades to comply with this, that there could be a financial hit to customers?
There will definitely be a financial investment, and there is a significant amount of work that we need to do. As I mentioned, we're working together with the departments to look at financial affordability. There are a number of projects we need to undertake. We don't know the full scope of those at this time. The next several years, we'll be looking at what's the best fit, what are the best improvements for the city of Harrisburg. There's no one size fits all. Once we get that, we'll have a better understanding of the long-term cost of all of the improvements, at which point we then work together with those agencies to determine how long we may need to get those improvements taken care of to ensure that it's in an affordable level for our community itself.
Do you have an estimate? Are we talking tens of millions, hundreds of millions?
Hundreds of millions is the likely estimate for similar cities. Lancaster, for example, they had an estimate of $300 million to do all piping and gray infrastructure, about $130 million for green infrastructure. I would presume that we're probably somewhere in that range.
So then, is it fair to say that ratepayers will see an increase at least over time?
Yes, it's definitely fair to say that we will need to institute gradual rate increases over time to cover the cost of these. However, the best part is that we don't, at this point in time, we have no financial penalties. So all those rate monies will go into the system and not simply for fines or penalties.
Shannon, is there any consideration about leasing or selling of assets of the authority, which is basically DeHart Dam?
DeHart Dam, well, we're planning to have some discussions about that in the near future. There's an opportunity right now that was presented to the board for the purchase of parcels at the DeHart Reservoir. However, that's a separate system from the sewer system, and any sale of those assets would not go towards these improvements on the sewer system.
So you're looking at, is it a bond issue that would be floated to?
Eventually, we did have financial borrowings this year through M&T Bank and Penvest that are allowing us to do some of the upfront work for this. As you know, we are reestablishing our credit worthiness in the financial sector. We're working on that over the next couple of years, 18 months or so that we can get into the bond markets again to take out the financings.
And this agreement, this consent agreement, is that it's a positive rating for the bond issuers to look and say, you have reached an agreement with the Department of Justice, and it has to be looked at favorably?
I would think so, yes, and especially that we were able to work on this in that collaborative and partnership manner, knowing that the regulators are working with us and not against us should be credit positive for us.
And could you call this, was this an investigation? Is that the proper terminology into?
The Environmental Protection Agency had essentially been looking at many combined sewer systems across the nation, in particular in the Chesapeake Bay. Back in 2011, they started looking at Harrisburg. And so through information requests and the information that was gathered in inspections, then that's where this came out from those inspections.
So the time frame would have been during the Thompson administration, not during the prior Reed administration? Or?
The investigation, well, I wouldn't say the investigations. The process and the information gathering began, I think it was 2011, 2010, yes, 2010. And that, I don't believe, was any indication of any administrations, just the timing of that, yes.
And were there any penalties paid or any fines that occurred during that period? Or?
No, there were not. all of the violations that were incurred over that time frame were wrapped into this consent decree.
So this is a partial consent decree?
Yes.
There are other pieces that aren't covered by this. What's the status of negotiations on those pieces?
Right. The reason it's called a partial consent decree is because, as I mentioned, we have to do another step. This is the consent decree that gets us the planning, okay? Information gathering, determining what steps we're gonna take. After that process, which is probably a 4 to 5 year process, we'll likely be entering into either an amended or a separate consent decree that would outline those tangible steps that need to be taken. And that would also be written and negotiated into a formal document.
So you're talking there about the long-term control plan and stuff like that?
Yes.
Violations of the Clean Water Act?
Correct. So the long-term control plan and the plans, the 9 minimum controls plan and other minimum control measure plans will be an outcome of this initial phase in the partial consent decree. The action projects will come next.
You said this planning stage would take 4 to 5 years. Do you have an estimate on how long it'll take until these changes are actually made?
Well, there are many projects that we're doing now and many steps that we're taking now, regardless of the planning phase. One of them is a rather large project we're doing next year, which is cleaning the Interceptor sewers. Pipes can only hold as much as they have open space for. When we went through and we did condition assessment using Red Zone, you may have seen, some of you may have been following that, we had to clean out the pipes in order to get the cameras through. Well, once we got the cameras through, we still noticed a whole lot of debris and sometimes half full or even more. If we clean that debris out, we can gain capacity in the system, more water can stay in the pipes instead of going out and causing overflow events. So it's those types of steps we can take now while we're doing the planning for the bigger projects that will reduce these overflow events in the immediate term.
Is there
Does
a
that
time
answer?
frame though for that, for how long it'll take to finish the entire plan?
For the entire plan, after, once we, I've seen decades, a lot of these consent decrees and the schedules that go out from those are on the 20-year time frame because of the financial constraints we have here in the city of Harrisburg with our low-income population. We are pushing to make that an extended time frame. And that all is going to come down to how much is it going to cost and what can we afford to spend. So I can't give you a firm answer on that. I consider that we here at Capital Region Water right now on the water and sewer systems are developing the strategies and plans for the next several decades, if not a half a century.
How much of the work that you're doing right now is catching up on perhaps mismanagement or poor management in the past?
I wouldn't put a percentage on it, but it's very high. Unfortunately, as everybody knows, a lot of the sewer and water rate revenues were diverted into the general fund. And that means loss of personnel. Preventive maintenance is one of the first things that goes. And we have not been able to gather records on routine cleaning or maintenance of the sewer systems. So yes, a lot of this is catching up. You will see in the budget presentations that we have that we are staffing up. When we took over the collection system at the end of last year, if you recall, we took over personnel as well. The personnel we took over from sewer were only focused on the conveyance and treatment systems. There was not a single employee that came over from the city of Harrisburg devoted to the collection system, and that's because there was no single employee dedicated. With the staffing issues they have and their budgetary constraints, it's no surprise because the same department that was in charge of the collection system is also in charge of roads, sanitation, and the like. So there were much higher priority in their mind issues than the out of sight, out of mind underground. And that's what we're doing now. We're catching back up. We're righting that ship. We're getting to the point where we need to be.
Can you just clarify on that? You haven't located records of routine maintenance. Do they not exist? Are you looking for them currently and haven't found them yet? Or is that done? You're just not going to find them?
I don't believe they exist. They were requested during the EPA information requests, and there were some gathered, but not very.
The
not very
EPA
thorough.
requested them.
EPA requested them,
You
yes.
didn't find
Correct.
Shannon, the amount of money that was diverted, that's into the millions per year. It was 7 or 8 million on an annual basis. Instead of going to capital projects, it went into the general operating funds of the city of Harrisburg.
Yes,
So now
that's
you
correct.
have access to that funding.
We do.
To make these repairs to what was deemed a capital project.
Right, it's also allowing us to spend the money on the operations and maintenance, the preventive maintenance, the cleaning, the televising, leak detection on the water system, regular routine, just the routine stuff, not just they were operating on a bare bones budget, and I have to give the men and women of the Water and Sewer Bureaus all credit, and that we should all thank them from the city of Harrisburg that they were able to keep these systems up and running and reliable for us. But now it's time to say, how much longer can we put off the inevitable?
I think David Unkovic, the former receiver for the city, in a public announcement, at one time said it went back decades, over 20 years.
That's our finding as well, yes.
Can you just walk through what penalties were hanging over your head? What were something that,
Oh, goodness.
punishments could have been?
I might need to phone a friend on this one, but Dave, I think some of the numbers that were floated out there were tens of $1,000s per day.
We have that.
Per
Those
violation.
stipulated penalties
Right.
do exist in the document.
They
There
do.
was no, what we avoided or was deferred was a significant financial penalty for the past violations. But as we
Right.
move forward, if we miss deadlines, we are subject to stipulated penalties. We never got a number. We suspected it would have been in the 7-figure range.
Okay. And then what's the I'm just wondering, this is sort of a partial agreement, so there's gonna be an information gathering phase. So I'm just wondering what's what would you have to fail to do for them to raise a flag? I mean, what's the first test of whether you're actually meeting this decree?
Well, there's a schedule in that decree
Okay.
that has all the steps outlined in it, what we have to do. The first one, I think it was October 31st was our first, we met that requirement. That was to submit the permit for our MS4 system, which is the municipal separate storm sewer system. That was the first milestone.
October 1st.
October 1st, thank you.
October 1st.
Yes. And it's a complete agreement on this consent decree, but it's only the first step in a much longer time frame.
When's the soonest that there could be cost passed on to the customer or a change in the rates?
The board is meeting at noon today to discuss the 2015 budgets and rate increases. Customers should expect to see some adjustments to their rates in 2015.
And then just, I don't know how much data you have access to, but how often does Harrisburg typically experience an overflow event?
Right, last year we had 82 events.
Okay. So 2014 total, or no, 2013 was that?
13.
What's that?
13.
2013.
Okay.
And just to clarify, the rate adjustment that they might be discussing, or they'll be discussing today,
Yes.
is related to this, not just an annual look at rates?
It's related to everything we have going on. So it's the look at rates. We now have debt service that we didn't in years past. We have this increase in operations and maintenance. And then also we have the work that's necessary to go into this consent decree. Yes. And we also have other capital projects that need to be completed. The wastewater treatment plant was built in the 1950s. We have some upgrades that need to happen there to make sure that we're treating everything, all the wastewater efficiently, and ensuring that once it gets to the plant, that it stays there and gets treated.
Do you know what the proposed rate adjustment would be for tonight or for today?
At one of the budget hearings, there was speculation. Last year, the rates were projected to increase by about 5% this year.
And Shannon, you mentioned PennVest. I think there was like a $27 million loan,
Correct.
interest loan.
Yes.
Have you applied for additional PennVest loans? are you ongoing right now, or do you plan on in the future?
We don't have any right now, but that is something that we would look to in the future. So once we get, you can't apply to Penvest until you have a project that's ready to go. We have these capital improvements we're anticipating next year, but we're anticipating being able to fund those through the rates.
Okay, and you do that in-house, the grant application?
We do some of it in-house, but we do contract out some of the applications as well. In the past, Riverwell and Rubik has done the applications and some of the administration for that.